Okay, so I want to go through the first tier, kind of the easier tier for editing this interview. I already have my 2 files downloaded from OneDrive. I've taken them from the downloads. I've created a separate folder here on my desktop. If you have an external hard drive, I would recommend saving it there. But here is camera 1, camera 2, my 2 shots. Now for this easier version, I just want to do basic editing. I'm only going to use camera 2. So let's go ahead. I'll open up Premiere. And I want to first do exactly as you did last week. And as this is opening up, make sure we create a new project here. I'm going to name it Dr. Shorter Interview. And you want to make sure you are saving it to the right place. In that case, this is the folder I want it to save to. I'll choose that location, go to my desktop. There is Dr. Shorter Interview. Great. I'll get that created, and now when I go there, I should see the project file next to my raw footage. That's exactly what we need. Those two things need to be there together. I typically skip the import step. Off we go into our project file. Again, make sure you are out of that learning workspace. Don't let me come by and get frustrated because you're still stuck in this learning workspace. Advanced editing is all about using your screen space wisely, and effects, to me, is the one that has everything we're going to need here. So we'll go ahead and import our video, and all we're going to use for this version, this tier 1 version, is camera 1. I'll pop that on in, and I will drag that on into my sequence. Oh, looks like we already went to captions. That's interesting. But we'll go ahead and watch through that clip.
Okay, if you would.
Hearing it there. All right. And now we can get to editing. Now this is going to, I'm just really going to show you how to edit, but not actually do the editing process. This will likely take the whole class just to go through and to take this 7 minutes and 25 seconds and cut it down to 1 minute. It involves listening and figuring out what is the best stuff she says, what is the stuff that captures what Aspire Week is most about. That is up to you. That is an editorial decision, and that just comes from you listening and figuring out what you think the best footage is. So there's some obvious stuff to cut, right?
Can you first tell us
Me
your name
answering the question,
your position?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
There's her saying, like, thank you for having me, all that stuff we're going to use. We're going to kind of give her title and her name in a lower third later.
My name
so we don't need that. In fact, we don't need anything until the answer to my first question.
Please, tell us your name and your title.
So title,
for the past
etc.
3 years as the administrative sponsor. This is an initiative of the Student Government.
So maybe this is an initiative of the Student Government.
Sponsor. This is an.
So that is where I want to start my piece. Perhaps, right? It's up to you, but this is maybe where I'm going to start here. So go ahead and zoom in. I'm hitting the plus button to do that. I'll find that edit
blessing
point.
of working with Aspire Week for the sponsor. This is an initiative.
So I can kind of see that little dip. If I'm watching my audio track here, you can see that little dip. That's where I want to make my edit, right? So a couple of ways you can make the edit. If you're starting from the beginning of the clip, you can often just grab the edge and drag it in, and that'll make the edit. The way I'm going to recommend, especially for this type of editing for an interview, is to use the razor tool. It's really helpful, and that way you can just make cuts directly onto the timeline. So I'll zoom in. Again, I want right as she starts talking.
This is an.
Maybe I want to get rid of that breath. I'll get right to there, make my cut. And then there we go. I can go ahead and get rid of everything before that.
This is an initiative of the Student Government Association to really coalesce around our community values
and go through, right? Okay, that's where I want to start. Maybe then then it's back to my question, so I get rid of that. And you are going to go ahead and just chop, chop, chop away, figure out what you want to leave, what you don't want to leave, and get this down to about a minute. So again, I'm not even going to really pay attention to what I'm chopping. Just imagine I'm doing a very smart and thoughtful job of cutting this down. But whatever that is, you cut it down to about a minute long. And all I'm doing is moving between the selection tool and the razor tool, cutting and moving, right? And then making sure you grab everything, drag it to the beginning so you know about how long it is. In this case, let's see about how long I'm at. Still a little bit long there. So let's say, I guess I'd cut right about there. Say I just have those 3 clips. Okay, great. Obviously, those aren't great. I have, with respect to Maya, we don't want her kind of walking in the beginning. So get rid of all the stuff that makes the most sense to get rid of, and then just, again, figure out the best things that she says that are up to you. Okay, great. So I've got that. I've got it down to roughly a minute there or so. Again, I'll just kind of quick edit it there. A couple of clips, little snippets. Last thing I do want you to add is a lower third. So again, she has her title in the beginning. She's like, I'm Dr. Siobhan Shorter. I do this, blah, blah, blah. And we don't need to leave that in there. we only have a minute, so why spend 15 seconds of having her introduce herself? We can have her talk about other stuff and introduce her in a different way, and that's by using a lower third. So I'm over here in the graphics templates, over here in the effects space. I'll just type in lower third. It's going to give me a lot of canned options. Later on, we'll probably make our own lower third that works with your graphics, but I'm just going to go through some of these and find one that I think looks pretty cool. So I got some nice options here. Let's maybe go with something like, let's go something like this. It's kind of big, but that's all right. I'll drag that on over. And then voila, that's weird. I got that little space right there. Let's see if I can, yeah, there we go. And then there's my little lower third that's up for a while. If I want it to really stay for a much longer time, I can have it stay up for a long time. But the nice thing about using these kind of pre-made ones is it has the little fade in. It does all the kind of animation automatically, rather than you have to do that through keyframes. And so then I'll just go. I'll make sure I'm selected my thing. I'll type in her name, Dr. Siobhan Shorter. And then I would have, Chief Diversity Officer. Again, she says her exact title. I'm not even sure if this is it, but you'll put in exactly what she said in the beginning there. You also notice how I've got that little white, the kind of white of her blazer is not showing over that text. I may want to change the font. I may want to do some other things or find a different, lower third that doesn't have that issue of contrast, right? But have something like that in there,
to
introduce
really
her,
coalesce around our cues.
and cut it down to a minute. And once you got that, you are ready to export. So we'll go to our last phase. Again, make sure it is 59 seconds or right at about a minute. Make sure you rename it, right? So I want to have Dr. Shorter interview. And make sure you are saving it to the correct place. So in this case, my location, Dr. Shorter interview alongside my raw footage of my project looks good. Adaptive bitrate looks great. Size looks great. I'll go ahead and export that. And in a few seconds, it should be done and you should see that file appear right alongside all of that other stuff. Again, make sure you do not submit that project file. I can't see that. This is what you need to watch, and make sure you submit. It's got the lower third on it. It's got my edit points in it. That is ready to submit to Canvas, and you'll be done.